Hey, everybody, and welcome to this episode 249 of the Thoughtium Navigating Now virtual roundtable series. I am your very excited host, Anthony Ewing, CEO, co-founder here at Thoughtium, and we come to you live week over week, every Thursday at 3 p.m. Central with leaders and leadership topics that matter most. And one of the themes that we've had over the course of the last, 20 or 25 episodes is really a bit of a zoom in on what makes great learning experiences. That's really at the center of our work here at Thoughtium. And so we love to bring leaders to the forefront, those that have kind of equal eyes out for great learning experiences. In today's case, what makes a great onboarding experience? And if there ever was a practitioner that I was really excited to both meet and bring onto the show, it's today's guest. Her name is Emily Mason. She is the founder of Burges Red Consulting. We'll introduce her and share kind of our mutual story here in a moment. But we're going to be focused today on the top 5 onboarding fixes that actually work. And as I bring Emily on and introduce her, Emily, I want to almost introduce you as somebody that I respect, because everything that you do has a bit of purpose to it and specificity. So the fact that we could even title this specific fixes that actually work, it requires a certain guest. It requires a certain practitioner, one that, can play in the clouds and the dirt. And that's the type of energy that I love. And we appreciate you bringing that to today's discussion. Welcome.
Yes, thank you, Anthony. I'm very excited to be here, and I'm excited to be with like minds to nerd out on something like onboarding. So very excited to be here.
So you and I met face-to-face at this most recent L10 conference in Denver. This is a large membership group and conference that's hosted every June, specifically for life sciences trainers. Emily and I both have a background in life sciences, pharmaceutical particularly. I think you and I overlapped at Pfizer for about a year or two. And I know for me, that was, Pfizer was one of the earliest kind of great examples of incredible training, industry leading training. But I'm curious for you, Emily, what's maybe one of the first memories that you have that you can almost directly tie to the work that you're doing today? And you can go way back if you want to. It could be even a childhood memory that says like, yeah, when I look back and I think about that point in my life, it's why I'm doing what I'm doing today.
Yeah, that's a great question. And there's so many different points on a graph that I can denote that got me here today. But what's funny is I think back to my early years, and when I was a young girl, my mom worked for a company that I think got gobbled up by a company called SC Johnson. So it doesn't exist anymore. But she loved working there. She always bragged about it. And I know the difference because I saw the demeanor that changed when she had to get a different job somewhere else. But they had a picnic every year where they bought all the kids' toys and we all just got to hang out and eat. And I loved going to that thing. And my mom was like, oh, the benefits here and the people and the culture, this is just the best place ever. And she really lit up talking about it. And I, to date, she's had several other jobs and I've never seen her light up like that. And you know what? I think there's so much of that you can provide for your organization where you light people up to come show up and be their full selves and be excited to be at that job. And it makes a huge difference. And I think she was there for 25 years. So talk about building that longevity. So when you pull in that top talent, you don't have to see it go away so soon. If you really get very specific and very honest on the front end, it can produce a lot of really strong results in the back end. I saw it firsthand with my mom. And, and it's so funny. I also have had many experiences too, firsthand of what it looks like when it's done well versus not. So that's great. Yeah.
And that almost, I'm sure your mom probably had an incredible first impression. We know like how important the first impression really is in these organizations. And, whether you're with an organization for, 18 months, 2.5 years, or 22 years, the onboarding experience can make or break your overall kind of employee experience. And that's what we're really focused on today. So today's episodes, we're almost going to like immediately dive into it, which I love because you're a practitioner. We define practitionership as treating your work like an art form or a craft. We invite all of our learners to find a bit of practitionership in the way that they step into training and onboarding and leadership development coaching. But today's practitionership is about onboarding, and we're going to talk about fixes and best practices that really matter, that really work in designing, building, and leading onboarding programs. And we know why onboarding is so important. So we'll just kind of assume everybody here, whether you're a learning professional or you're a leader within a firm or you're leading an organization, the value of great onboarding can be measured in some aspects, and some are very intangible. But today's episode is more so, what are the most important ways or strategies that we can apply to building great onboarding? And Emily and I are just going to kind of go back and forth. We haven't shared our list. I said, come today with kind of your top 3 or 4. And we're just going to compare notes. I bet we'll find more similarities than not. But Emily, I'd love for you to share your first hot take or best practice in building and designing onboarding programs.
Yeah. So my first hot take is the following. Orientation, the thing you do with HR, where you find out how to do paid time off, how to get paid, all the paperwork on the front end. Orientation does not constitute onboarding.
Oof.
Hard stop. So, and here's the deal. Is orientation part of onboarding? Absolutely. You have to understand, different dynamics of that, how to put paid time off in, how to get paid. All that stuff is great and very necessary. But that is what you would call admin onboarding. But what about the fact that when that person leaves, they're going to have the big question, great, I know everything of what to do except how do I do my job? And I think that's such a missing piece in a lot of companies. It seems so obvious, or they'll just figure it out. And I think people oftentimes grow reactive in organizations on this. And that's something I always push. This should be highly intentional. This should be well thought out, well designed, and role specific.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, even just the difference between onboarding and orientation, I think is an important differentiation. When we think of orientation, we think of almost like that checklist, right? Regardless of what function it's coming from, whether that's L&D or HR, but it's very kind of checklist oriented. It's go talk to these 4 or 5 people, kind of learn about the history of the organization. Onboarding is so much more. And maybe that's a good segue to my first hot take, which is a piggyback on kind of the difference between onboarding and orientation. From my perspective, great onboarding almost immediately involves your managers. So my hot take here is that if your managers are not involved, it's not onboarding, it's orientation theater.
Yes.
And we see this time and time again where organizations are building onboarding programs that have this, what I like to call drop your kids off at the pool approach. We all can remember, like when we were younger, our mom and dad would just drop our kids off. They would drop us off at the pool at 9 o'clock in the morning. We would just go all day, and we would come home exhausted and happy and tired and ready to go to bed. It's not the same for onboarding. And too many times we're building these onboarding programs in silos. They are not requiring managers to be a part of the onboarding experience. And the programs that we, help our clients build here at Thought Team almost immediately involve the managers, and not just as overseers of the learners through the process, but an integral part of, measuring how your learners are experiencing onboarding, how they're almost immediately applying their knowledge, translating whether it's product training or selling skills into what they're going to face real world out there in their role. And we say that managers should be an extension of the learning experience and a big part of the onboarding process as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I would totally echo those thoughts. I would put that as hot take number 2 myself. It's they're no particular order, by the way, but
Great,
I
100%
agree with you on the managers being a part of it. And it has to be well defined and well spelled out, because a lot of times I'll work with clients and the pushback I get is, but I don't have to onboard people that frequently. Onboarding happens maybe a couple times, so I don't really feel the need to overexhaust myself in a training for that. And to that end, I say, great. but you still have such a great impact on how this new hire is going to perform that you have to be a part of it. And here's the deal. The L&D team or whoever runs onboarding can come up with very specific structure for managers on what they need to do and when they need to do it.
Right.
Which is huge. If you do it that way, then it takes the guesswork out of it for the manager, right? A good example of that is a lot of times the number one feedback I got from new hires early in my days in corporate that I hate it. I loathe this feedback, but they said, it feels like we're drinking from a fire hose with all this information, right? Because there's just so much coming at them. They're trying to digest everything. And so I think you've got to find ways to make things digestible for their learning. But here's the other thing too. Then they go into a meeting with their manager. And if you don't give the manager kind of like exactly what they need to talk about, here's how that meeting's going to go. Manager's going to be like, hey, Tim, new hire Tim, how's it going? And new hire Tim's going to say, great. And and then the manager's going to say, okay, new hire Tim, do you have any questions for me? And new hire Tim's going to be like, I think I'm good right now. I don't know what I don't know. And then that's the end of the conversation, right? You have to come up with questions that the manager should know to ask at a certain cadence of what that new hire is going through to make it really, really, really effective. And that's oftentimes a really big missing link. So you get a lot of non-responses from new hire Tim.
It's such an unlock too. I think about the role that managers play in learning measurement. This is something that we're all focused on. How do we measure the impact of any training program? And one of the best ways you can do that is you can enable your managers to have kind of 2 or 3 things in mind that they're looking to see their new hires do or build or react to in their new role. And we know that gets our learning measurement beyond the smile sheets and beyond satisfaction and gets us closer to a little bit of that kind of ROI measurement. If managers can see new behavior in their reps or in their new employees, then you're able to assess the efficacy of your training much more specifically. But to your point, Emily, the managers can't do that unless they have those 3 or 4 things that they need to ask their new hires, in the first, couple of months. And so equipping your managers is super important. Awesome. I know you kind of dovetailed on my best practice, but I want to kick it back to you.
Yeah.
Give us another hot take.
Let's see. Onboarding is a revenue strategy. So you should consider this when you're building out your budgets for next year. What I find is a lot of times budgets get allotted to things like leadership programs and sales training, and those are always wonderful. And I highly recommend those too. But don't ever forego how much you can improve your revenue situation by improving your onboarding program. So that's my hot take on that, because I just feel like, especially I onboard a lot of sales reps, and think about your ramp to revenue time. That's all comprised of how well solidified your onboarding program is. If it's taking people 6 months plus, you may want to evaluate that, unless your portfolio lends to that kind of situation. But I imagine a lot of times people don't want to hire a new sales rep to find out that they won't be producing anything until post 6 months. So how can you cut down on that time? And the time you cut down, that is revenue 1. So think about it from that perspective. It's not just a raw moment of onboarding. There are serious dollars to getting it right. Yeah.
I love that. I had a client leader say at one point that we don't call it onboarding, we call it revenue enablement, which I thought was super interesting. And again, not just a way to kind of like ensure that your training really matters and is applicable, but it's also an incredible way that you can then communicate the value of training within an organization. If you can tie it to revenue, if you can get managers talking about the differences that they're seeing in their folks, then you have a much better case for bigger budgets, more resources, more support. So I love that. I won't dovetail on that. I'll maybe change directions a little bit and talk a little bit about the way that we design onboarding. And my next hot take is that onboarding isn't about fitting in. It's about unlocking differentiation. And I think this is one that's super interesting because oftentimes we see onboarding programs as like a way to get everybody on the same page, singing from the same hymnal, saying the same things, ensuring that they're doing the right things in their role, particularly in the first, 30, 60, 90 days. And so it almost has this kind of cult-like feeling, right? Where we're kind of like, we're brainwashing people. I mean, I remember this at Pfizer. We didn't get brainwashed at Pfizer, but I do remember, I mean, my initial training class was close to 1,000 people. There was classrooms of 300, 400, 500 people. And the only way that they were able to kind of scale the learning experience was, everybody learned the exact same thing. We're in a world today in 2025 where you should be finding ways to personalize and allow folks to differentiate themselves almost immediately, like from day one. Allow people to bring their own skill sets, their own passions, their own talents to the onboarding program that they're stepping into. And one of the most specific and tactical and effective ways that we have found is find a way to have some sort of unique assessment at the front end of onboarding, whether you're doing Myers-Briggs or Type Coach or DISC. Find a way for people to deepen their own sense of self-awareness and almost share what's unique about them as they work through the onboarding program. You'll find that that's a great culture build. It's also a great way for people to feel like they have a bit of a differentiated position in a sea of other new hires. And it's just yet another value add that you can bring to your learners.
Yeah, no, those are all really wonderful things. I think personalization, I was just saying this on a call the other day, personalization is exactly what cuts through the noise these days.
Yeah.
In the sea of AI and this kind of sameness jargon all kind of flooding together, the art of personalization, creating those personal experiences, it's what's going to separate you, but it's also going to be probably your competitive advantage as well.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, over to you. What's next for you as we look at the
let's see.
top 5 onboarding fixes?
Yeah, I would say, okay, your subject matter expert is smart. We know that, but can they train? Right?
Yeah.
I see this so much, right? You call in the subject matter experts and they get up there and it's extremely didactic and just people eyes just glassed over. And you can imagine, Anthony, you've been in the healthcare industry and pharma. Yep. If you don't have a background knowledge in this stuff, you have to start with 101. And that's really tough for a lot of subject matter experts to do, to kind of scale it back. The number of times as in corporate when I was in L&D and I had to kind of wave my hand to the SME and say, okay, we need to break this down for everybody, because I could see there was a disconnect, right? Mm-hmm. So here's the challenge, right? The challenge is, do I upskill my SMEs on being better facilitators? And that's always a great idea. Or do I find really creative ways with the tech we have today to get them this information in bite-sized chunks where they can learn it? And then when the subject matter expert comes in, kind of like that flipped classroom appeal, then when the SME comes in, now you're having a lot more of a fruitful conversation. Yeah. So yes, do train your SMEs. Everyone should be upskilled in facilitating and presenting and all that stuff. That's always a win, no doubt. But find other ways to get that information consistently and in the right times, the right person in their onboarding journey. And that'll be a major slam dunk, because that can be you can really hit it out of the park, or you can really strike out on this one. It's your choice.
Yeah, I love that. Especially for those organizations that are maybe smaller in size, they're scrappy. They don't have a big L&D team. We're oftentimes really relying on these external subject matter experts to come in and deliver like large parts of our training, whether that's product training or history of the firm or sales operations training, reports training, all this. And not everybody's a learning practitioner, not everybody's a specialist in this space. And I like what you said, Emily, about yes, you could formally train folks. And we have found that when you do invest a little bit of time and resources in those SMEs, whether they're, again, true subject matter experts, or maybe they're field trainers, and you put them through a bit of foundational training in learning design and facilitation, stakeholder partnership, you're going to get a lot more out of them. But to your point, also, we may not have time and resources for that. So you got to give them the tools to do that. And one of the first things that we do when we come into an organization and build learning and development from the ground up is we create almost a template for every SME. It's a standard template. And it is chock full of different ways that they can package up their information. It is chock full of pauses for conversation and discussion, even templated slides for how to break people out and get people moving. Mm-hmm. And we found that even something as simple as that gets them out of their kind of like vertical mindset of coming in and dumping information. And a perfect example of this is rarely do we have an SME that comes in and truly knows how to articulate learning objectives, which are a lot different than just like, here's the 4 things that I'm going to talk about today. So even helping them translate in, the content into learning objectives is super critical. And you can do that through some simple tools. So I love the specificity of how we can enable our SMEs as part of our onboarding program.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
We have time for maybe one more each. So I want to go back to you. Do you have one more in your pocket?
Yes, I got one more.
Love it.
Let them fail. Mm-hmm. Let the new hire fail. Let them understand why certain things work the way that they do. Give them the space and understanding that failure is okay, fail forward, learn from it. And I say this specifically to the companies out there that love to tout that they are a company of innovation. It's nearly impossible to be innovative and not fail. So if that's on your competency ledger, you've got to make sure that shows up in your onboarding. Any of those competencies all should show up in the onboarding, and let them fail in a safe space. Helps them understand the product, the service, the company that much more better. And I would say it gives them the opportunity to also gets that stage 6 of the Bloom's taxonomy of, can I see something in the wild here in this organization in time to come and say, can we make this better?
Yeah.
And here's how.
I would add to that as well. It's let them fail to our stakeholders, and to our learners, it's encourage them to fail, right? Because we've also all been new hires, and our tendency is to come in and really like show our best cards and put our best foot forward, almost to the detriment of like, I don't want to make mistakes in front of others. And there's some very specific things that you can do to design and create spaces and environments for people that get excited to fail a little bit, and treat learning like the sandbox that it is. So I love that hot take.
Yeah.
I'll add one more, and maybe you can add to it. I think this one is one that I feel very passionate about, that onboarding is your culture in disguise. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to spare maybe some of the obvious ties between onboarding and culture. Of course, like first impressions mean everything. You want a very diverse onboarding program so people really understand how your organization ticks. If you're sloppy or you're not attentive or you're not thorough, like that is a reflection of your culture. I'll save all of that because that's very obvious. But one of the things that we continue to encourage our clients to do is, as you're building out your onboarding program, know that you're setting almost the expectations for these learners in terms of how much they will learn in the rest of their career at your organization. Like those first, 90 days of a new hire's onboarding program, especially like a commercial new hire, really sets the tone for like, okay, this is truly a learning organization. And if the onboarding program is this good and it's this dynamic and it's this immersive and my manager's involved and it truly is a place to fail, and our SMEs are like really tightly connected to what we're trying to achieve here, then I better really step into this, because beyond these 90 days, I'm going to have other opportunities to learn and grow here, because this is a great learning culture. So that's why I feel very passionate about almost demonstrating best learning practices in your onboarding program is a way to set the tone and the expectation that this is a place for you to grow and learn, which is of course a retention tool and an engagement tool for those leaders out there.
Yeah. I mean, you said it. This is all like, it builds culture, and culture is what retains people.
Yeah.
So you don't want to ever forego all the little things that need to go into an onboarding program. And it should never be a reactive thing. You should really invest in a strong onboarding experience for people, because, listen, you've done all the work. You've done all the hard work. You acquired top talent. You went through the rigor of, I don't know how many thousands of LinkedIn applications you had to go through to see these days, or, how many rounds of interviews. You've done the hard work. Don't let it fall apart in the onboarding phase.
Yeah.
You want to retain top talent. You want to keep your company moving strong, especially with all the changes that are taking place so rapidly. So absolutely make the time to make it sing.
That's so good. I want to squeeze one more, and this isn't a hot take, but one more question in for you, because I think one of the things that I really appreciate about your approach, Emily, is that a lot of what you bring to your clients and the L&D industry at large are some of these like evergreen aspects of training that like truly haven't shifted for years and most likely won't. You and I also connected at the L10 conference at a point where rightfully a large focus of the conference and our industry right now is on ensuring that we're enabling the right technologies to really enhance the learning experience. We're talking AI. We're talking a lot about simulations and digital environments for folks to learn and grow. I'm curious, and this doesn't need to be a hot take, but where are you kind of standing in this balance? And for those, clients or community members that ask you about, how much they should be paying attention to the technology versus just building like evergreen training programs, like, is it a delicate balance? Are you hedging on one or the other? Like, what's your kind of position in this world?
Yeah. Here's what I always tell clients when it comes to onboarding. What do you want to achieve? Start with the outcomes first. What does success look like to you? You spell that out very clearly. Time frames you want things to get taken care of. What behaviors you expect them to exhibit by when. Once you nail that down, work backwards. Now you've got a nice project charter. If something doesn't point, if you want to get that shiny new toy, that shiny new AI tool, if it doesn't point back to what you've set the groundwork at, the foundation for the charter, it doesn't have a space in there. Strategy wise, it doesn't have a space. Now, in due time, if you think it should, renegotiate what that charter looks like. That's fine. But that's something that you want to be mindful of with all the tech that there is in the world, all the things you can implement. You can do a lot. You can do something new every single day. But then there's overload, and the adult brain can't handle it. When it comes to adult learning, there's that component of it as well too. So be mindful of that. But if you start with the outcome in mind, you stay honest to it, have someone really stay the course on it, work backwards, see what makes sense.
I love that. I'll add to that. One of the things that we're, helping our clients see is like almost the watch points for if you're over rotating into the technology space. And to us, the easiest and most obvious watch point is that if you are starting discussions with specific tools or technology, it's an opportunity to pause and take a step back and do exactly, Emily, what you're talking about, which is you've got to make sure that you define kind of what you're after and what you're looking to achieve. So many times with new technology, and I'll take, let's call it role play simulation technology. It's huge right now, AI-based role play simulation technology. And there's countless vendors out there that are doing this and doing it really well. But I've seen far too many learning leaders almost like start discussions with these AI kind of role plays as a way almost to kind of replace the sales training aspect of their program. And that is so not it. Like, these technologies are here to support and augment. They are not here to overtake or replace. And that goes for, really everything. That's kind of our perspective on AI. We here at Thought Team, we follow this model, human, machine, human. So everything that we do with new technology or AI, it has to be preceded or started with really human thought and the human experience, then supported and augmented by the machine or the tool, and then ensured that we are kind of rounding it out and refining it with that human layer of like, how is it ultimately going to land on our learners? So just some great reminders for folks that are really excited about new technology. That is great, but start with what you're trying to accomplish first, and that can't be achieved with a specific tool.
Right.
Awesome.
Well said. Well said.
Well, Emily, I could sit here and chop it up with you forever. I bet like our collective list would probably be like 25 plus.
Yeah.
But I think we've shared about 5 or 6 today that hopefully our community will really get some value out of. Do you have time for a quick lightning round to round things out?
Well, let's do it. Let's do a lightning round. That sounds
because
fun.
I feel like we haven't gotten to know you, the person, Emily, and I just have a hunch that you're a really interesting human. If you haven't checked out Emily on LinkedIn, definitely do so. I was kind of stopped in my tracks maybe a couple months ago at one of her wine and win episodes on LinkedIn, where she has a glass of wine and she talks about some of these tried and true evergreen principles. And it's just a really creative way to bring new concepts to you all. So check Emily Mason out on LinkedIn if you have a chance. But aside from that, aside from work, Emily, what's something that you are reading, listening to, or watching today that you're really geeking out about?
Gosh, well, for the record, I'm a podcast junkie. So this is great to be here. I love watching, listening, you name it. Who do I follow a lot? I would say I'm really big in productivity, the productivity space. So how can I hack my life as a solopreneur, make it more efficient? So of course you've got your Ali Abdals, you've got your iconic book that I read and reread, which is Atomic Habits. So can't go wrong there.
Love that.
I don't really, what's funny is I'm not exciting in the sense I don't do like a Harry Potter. I don't have any like fun fiction stuff. It's all nonfiction, Or how many more motivational things can I listen to from Tony Robbins before I'm like, enough is enough?
Yeah. I feel like I missed the cult classics as well too. Like, Star Wars, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings. Like I have friends that are in it. It's just like foreign language to me. I guess I had my head in too many business books.
I'll be doing that in retirement. That's what I'll pitch up.
Exactly. Yeah. If you couldn't live in San Diego today, where would you live?
Ooh, great question. Italy.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. Italy. Yeah. It's just great culture, great food, great people. I'd have to learn Italian. I'll make it happen though. If I could live there, I'll make it happen.
I love it. If you had to choose in-person, virtual, or hybrid, and you were the facilitator, and for the rest of your career, you were doing in-person, virtual, or hybrid, what would you choose?
I think future me would kill me after doing this over and over again, but in-person is always the gold standard for me.
Yeah.
I love connecting with people, and I think that you get such a deeper connection and build that camaraderie and that spirit with people in person that you just can't. It's just tough to not do. Yeah,
I love that. Okay, last question. I want you to think about something that you admire most about yourself, and I want you to finish this sentence. If the world were a lot more like Emily, it would be what?
It would probably laugh at things more frequently. So I have to say I admire the fact that I can just really laugh in times where people might want to cry. So I think humor has always been such a big thing for me, and I don't see that going anywhere anytime soon.
Well, it also takes a lot of humility and even humor to navigate, going out on your own, starting a business, hanging a shingle. And I think that's one of the things that, you and I connected on when we ran into each other at L10 is like this process, this journey. It's messy. It's oftentimes difficult. But I think far too few founders, especially in their first few years, myself included, are maybe unable to or a little less willing to find the humor in it all. Yeah. And I think that's something that like I really appreciate about you and admire about you is that like even in the first few years of you building this business, I can see a sense of humility and humor in what you do, even in the content that you put out there, public before perfect, that as Burges Red and your career continues to expand, I hope you don't lose that sense, because I think it's truly uniquely yours for as little as I've known you.
Well, I really appreciate that. Thank you for always being someone who advocates and continues to push me, because you're right. This game out here, it's got its high highs, but it's got its low lows. So it's nice to have people like in our universe and people watching to support each other.
It does. It does. Well, Emily, thank you so much for joining. And something tells me this is probably not our last episode together. I wish you so much luck in everything that you're doing. And we are happy to have you a part of the Navigating Now community.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me here. What an honor.
All right. Thank you. All right. What an episode. Episode 249. I knew that was going to be a good one. If you tune into this episode or tune into Navigating Now, you know that I get really excited when I get to connect with learning practitioners. And again, treating your work like an art form or a craft, like there's no better way to think about work. And I can just tell that's the way that Emily approaches hers. And that's really what we're trying to promote here at Navigating Now. Speaking of, next week, we are hitting our 250th episode, which I just can't imagine, but I also can. And we're gonna really celebrate this milestone. I'll have a host of special guests that will help us ring in our 250th episode. So we hope that you all will join us next Thursday, 3 p.m. Central. You'll be able to find that episode in your LinkedIn feed if you search for Thoughttium. You also can look or you can find that episode and all previous episodes at thoughttium.com/live. We want to thank everybody for joining, particularly our LinkedIn community. That community is growing week over week, and we appreciate all of the great feedback, both formal and informal. And we look forward to seeing you on episode 250 next Thursday. Have a great rest of the week.